Hey, Amie,
Yeah, Juan.
give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening to us on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Bluesky at Baseball Shangri-La. Amie, ¿cómo estás?
Hi. It's baseball's here.
Yes, baseball is here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking about the Tokyo series. We're going to spend a lot of time on the Tokyo series. But before we go there, just want a little bit of programming notes here, ladies and gentlemen. One, we decided we should probably hold off from doing an episode until the games are played, considering they were so close to being played when we normally record. And then we also had some I had technical difficulties because I'm in a bunker somewhere in some, shady part of town.
Maybe he's in Tokyo. Maybe he's on the plane back. We don't know.
So we appreciate your patience. We love that you guys are very eager and want to hear from the show. So we really appreciate your support. Before we get into the Tokyo series, there is a little bit of breaking news, a little something that I want to share with all of you guys. And that is that my lovely co-host, Amie Cuevas, ladies and gentlemen, is featured in the International Women's Baseball Center. They wrote a nice little feature on her. So go ahead and check it out. If you just go to the International Women's Baseball Center, there's a nice little write up on Amie there with her picture in the Dodgers dugout. Amie, can you how did this come about?
So I'm a member not only of SABR but also the IWBC, the International Women's Baseball Center, and they since I work with them, they approached me to see if I wanted to be part of their inaugural Meet Our Members feature, and so they're going to have future members have something in their newsletter as those come out over the rest of the year. So I got to be featured in this one. I did a little write up, and the newsletter just got sent out today. So have to get that posted up on my social media so that there was a nice little shout out to Baseball Shangri-La on there.
Well, congratulations. Now we know who the real star of this program is, ladies and gentlemen. She gets all the publicity. And so before we get into the Tokyo series, there are some things that I would like to address in the comments corner from our last show. Amie, ladies first, is there anything you want to address?
It sounds like people are really resonating with the batting cages, and since that's kind of been my go-to for the last couple weeks, great stress reliever. Feels good to smash balls. Like I feel like if we can't get our, I know if we can't, if we can't get
nightly at the Pacoima Hilton, everybody.
Make sure to tip your servers. If we can't like get a field trip together soon, we should just start like trending a hashtag. Like everybody goes to your own batting cages and like post your pictures up on social media, tag us in it. Like that's, I mean,
is the hashtag going to be smashing balls? Is that what that?
I don't know if that's really the message we want to go with. You could add that to it. Yes.
Hey, your words, not mine.
I mean, we could like, or just like hashtag batting cages, but yes.
You were the one. I'm just saying.
In this case, yes, I did say smashing balls, but much like last week.
How old are you?
I'll be 45 soon.
Well, I wasn't meaning that.
Oh, I know. That's why I went literal instead of your developmentally your developmental dig.
As my wife says, you're supposed to go this many.
I'm 12.
Exactly.
Last week or last episode, I believe you said that I said that somebody was the director, and I just said that they were affiliated with it. So when I went back and listened, you actually said that they were the director. So.
Yeah, I still look. To me, it felt like you were implying that, but I get it.
He was
I take it back.
affiliated with the
It
film.
wasn't an attack. It wasn't an attack on you, but I take it back.
I will take. I did say smashing balls today, so that's mine. I'll own it.
Yeah, that's what this show's about, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, accountability.
That's right. And then I do want to Richard Reyes, one of our viewers. I don't know if you are a regular viewer, Richard. This is the first time I've heard from you, but Richard, I love this. Richard, hey guys, I was born in L.A. but grew up in Sanger down the street from Clovis. Been a Dodgers fan my whole life. The Giants used to have a AAA team in Fresno from 1988 to 2014. So they have a lot of friends there. That's so great that you know Clovis, Richard. So you're the one, you know what I experience every year when I make my famous trip to Clovis. But thank you for watching the show. We really appreciate it. One other thing that I want to clarify from the comments corner, it seemed like a lot of people were shocked to hear that I try to watch a movie a day. I want to clarify once again, ladies and gentlemen, I try to watch a movie a day. It doesn't happen all the time, but I know people were very like, Juan, how do you watch a movie a day? It's like, I
You have
try.
such lofty goals.
Exactly. Last movie I saw, we went to the Frida Cinema, ladies and gentlemen, and we saw the 1979 classic All That Jazz, starring the fabulous Roy Scheider. Who, Amy? Who is Roy Scheider?
He's in Jaws. He's oh gosh, sorry. I'm a little scattered this week. Why can I not
Oh,
think of his-
Amy, you're
I
breaking
know.
my heart.
This is okay. So I have a lot going on right now.
All right, we're gonna get
And
into
I'm-
that. I'll let you get into that, but I'm gonna save you right now. Chief Brody is what was
I was
on
like,
the
deputy was the other guy, not him. Yeah,
Chief
thank you.
Brody. That's Deputy Hendricks that you're talking
And
about.
one of my best friends was just watching Jaws last night and sent me a thing about poor little kid Andrew Kittner. I can't even.
Kittner. Andrew
Kittner. I
Kittner.
can't even. I'm done. I can't. So all of my synapses are not firing tonight.
So my theater of choice, the Frida Cinema, shows new releases, and then they also show, old films. So they were showing All That Jazz is my favorite movie musical. I absolutely, and Roy
Really?
Scheider is absolutely fantastic in that movie.
Roy Scheider's just such an underrated actor
He
in
is.
general. Like I don't feel like he got his due.
No, he is very, very underrated. So, again, like I said, everybody, I try to watch a movie a day. It doesn't happen. I try to go to the movie theater as much as I can, or I'll stream something at home. But I love being able. I've never seen All That Jazz on the big screen, and I was able to do that this past weekend. So, Amy, I want you started saying something, so I want to
Oh
give
no,
you the floor.
we're good. We're good.
You're good? Okay. All
Yeah.
right. I didn't mean to cut you off. All right. So
No. Just if I'm a little scattered today, just give me some grace. That's all.
that's right. Give her grace, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. So let's get into some of this Tokyo series. Let's start things off with a pleasant good evening to you, wherever you may be. Amy, I know you didn't wake up at 3:00 in the morning because you told me you were gonna watch. You were recording the games, correct?
Yeah, I was. I got a couple messages from some of our listeners, and it just, hey, set your alarm, or hey, are you going to watch the game? And honestly, no, I'm not getting up at 3 a.m. Did you wake up
Yes.
at the crack of dawn?
I
Or
was that
before the crack of dawn?
I was that dumbass that woke up, and I'm letting you know right now, I'm feeling it today. At the time we
Really?
are recording this is Wednesday night. I've been dragging ass today. There was Tuesday morning. My daughter is on spring break, so she was going to pull an all nighter until the game started.
Wow, you
But
guys are badass.
she fell asleep. I went into the room and I was like, "Hey, it's 3:00." She's like, "I'll be right down." She got up and we watched the game, and she didn't do it this morning because she had practice early in the morning. So, but I woke up and at 3:00 and I watched both games. Amy, have you seen both games now?
Oh yeah, I went back through, so I have my I'm starting off this year not just with my little cards, but I have my, oh man, I hate the blue screen. I have my little scorebook that Liz Thompson off of Twitter made, and I ordered from her. And oh my gosh, I went through and I scored both games. It was wow.
So this is what I want to do, Amy. Let's start with the games because they're very, very, very recent. Your initial thought, and I'm talking about the actual games against the Cachorros. We can go back to the exhibition games if you want to throw stuff in there, but your initial takeaways from those first two games that of the season that count against the Cachorros, what stood out for you?
So I think like just getting to see the pictures. Obviously, we saw Yamamoto start the first game, and then Roki Sasaki start the second game, and just that's Yamamoto's first opening day start, Sasaki's first MLB debut. So there was a lot of energy, I think, going into both of those games, especially from the Dodgers teams, and then just seeing them start to hit their stride. Whether it was we didn't see a lot of high scoring in that first game, but we saw a lot of like, all right, we got a lot of walks there. They were getting good looks at the ball. I felt like they were starting to put it together from what we saw in spring training, because obviously we see them only for a couple innings and then, the main players kind of dash off to stage left. So it was just seeing that they swept the series was amazing. So if anybody hasn't watched the games yet, surprise, we swept the Cubs. And then obviously you see some of the home runs in that second game, and it was just like, okay, this is our team. They've warmed up a little bit more. So I don't know. What about you?
For me, I really the first takeaway that I took from both of those two games is I think pitching is going to carry this team. I really think we're going to get into a couple of things here in Japan. I'm expecting big things from Yamamoto this year, especially the way he ended last year and he was in the postseason. I'm very excited to see how he does this year, and for him to go out there. This is what's so crazy to me about that first game. I felt it was so. What's the word that I'm looking for? Pedestrian. There wasn't anything like super impressive about what the Dodgers did. They just to steal a line from Travis Rogers of ESPN LA, the Dodgers just played baseball and showed everybody we're just this much better than you. We may not be on our game, we may not be having a great game, but we do baseball this much better than you, and it's enough to beat you, because the Dodgers just did enough. I don't know if you saw this, because I know you were trying to stay away from social media, but the amount of tweets that went off when the Dodgers started scoring in the fifth inning and the Cachorros defensively were having some struggles. Shout out to my compadre, who is both a Cachorros fan and a Yankees fan, who was able to like, is this Dodgers fifth inning thing going to be a thing for the whole year? Am I going to like hear this all year long?
I mean, it might be. I mean, you bring up a good point too of just being like a little bit better. To me, we'll just throw it out. We're in a new season, might as well. Like that is baseball to me. Like the fact that our lineup wasn't even what they intended it to be, right?
Exactly.
We're going to talk about this more. Mookie Betts is out. Freddie Freeman got scratched at the last minute. Michael Conforto didn't even know he'd be on like the opening day like lineup. The fact that they were still able to kind of pull it all together just to me just speaks to how this team adapts and adjusts to situations, and they go out there and they're professionals and they go play the game.
Let's put a pin on the Conforto thing,
Mhm.
because that relates to some issues that I want to talk about. But I just want to go over the initial. Like I said, for me, that first game was so pedestrian, and to me, it was so indicative of what the regular season is going to be like for the Dodgers. They're just going to go out there, regardless of who's playing. They have a very good chance to win that game, and for me, it's because of the pitching. Not only did Yamamoto go out there, he went 5 innings, only gave up a run, but what the bullpen did then after that, and again, the Dodgers are starting the season. We're going to get into the reassignments and all that stuff. They have 9 pitchers already to start the season on the injured list. Okay. So some of these guys that we see in the bullpen, they may not be in the bullpen later on, midway through the season or at the end of the season. But for them to go out there 4 shutout innings and just like this is what to me is so exciting, where if offensively the Dodgers are not clicking on all cylinders, I think their pitching is so good that it doesn't matter. They're gonna find ways to win games, and that to me was very encouraging about Game 1.
And
Game
it was nice to see that Dave Roberts got credit for, like, oh, look, he's continuing to do what he did, like, all year last year into the postseason and manage the bullpen well. And it was like, yes, let's give him his flowers.
Absolutely. I'm not gonna lie. Game 2, when I saw Roki out there, I mean, when he like I believe the first 4 pitches were 100 miles per hour. Like you could tell even before he got on the mound, when he left the dugout, that guy was amped, right? Like the adrenaline, like they should have probably just took blood out of his body at that point and sold that stuff out on the street, because that dude was amped. My takeaways from Roki is, everybody take it easy, take it easy. It was a mixed bag. What you saw in that performance, he went 3 innings. There were periods where he looked like his stuff was unhittable, and I think what we saw today, Dodger fans should get used to this. We saw it with Yamamoto last year. This dude is not going to come in immediately and dominate. But what happened to me, Amy, when I was watching that game was, I was like, all right, he hasn't figured it out yet. But my question now is, how soon before this dude figures it out? Because if he figures it out pretty quickly, oh my gosh, do the Dodgers have a steal on their hands?
There's already an article that I saw this afternoon that's like, he already knows what his takeaways are from this first game, and he's already got a plan to attack it before his next outing. And
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, this kid's on it. Like, that's part of the reason that he chose the Dodgers, was because of the growth that he can get. He knows he accomplished quite a bit in Japan, but he has a lot of polishing to go through, and this is what this team is going to do. But just like what he was able to, like, an 11 pitch first inning, like, he knocked it out. Like, for going out with all of those jitters and everything, pitching, not only making his MLB debut, but making his MLB debut in his own country. Like, that's a lot. That's
Absolutely. I mean, his splitter looks unhittable. And the fact that he's developing that slider, and there were points in that game where that slider looked just as devastating. And when you're able to throw 100 miles per hour, it is, you can't sit there, and at least for me, and not feel excited that it's like, oh my gosh. Like, I kept thinking of your voice when you said that he was asking teams what was wrong with, why did my velocity go down? It's like, bro, you're throwing 100 miles per hour in the first game of the season. Did they figure out why your velocity, and then now they fix it? I mean, it's just, to me, it's so exciting, the potential. It is
mhm.
the potential with this guy. And like I said, for me, the only question is, how long is it going to take for this guy to figure it out? Because we saw that in the second and in the third inning, he completely lost control. All right, he wasn't like, and those pitches in that inning, especially in that third inning, the majority of them were non-competitive. Like, they weren't even close. 5 walks is too many walks in a Major League Baseball game, and that is the concern. Like, if they're going to do damage against him, it's because you can't, it's the cardinal sin, right? You can't give the teams free passes. You can't put players on the bases, because they'll find a way to score those runs. So obviously his control was a little concerning. I think Mark Pryor will be able to go ahead and fix that. Again, the question is, how long until it becomes consistent? But I don't think there's any rush. He doesn't
I
need to, like, the Dodgers don't need him to be the ace right now.
No, they don't. And I think that's something to remember. And it's the same thing that we said last season with Yamamoto, is he's going through a lot of transitions. Like, they even in the exhibition games, the Japanese team, I think it was the Giants and the Tigers, were both still using the Japanese ball, so the NPB league ball, and the Dodgers and the Cubs, whatever they were doing in their exhibition games, they were using the MLB ball. So theirs is heavier. It's I think they said it's like pre-tacky. So, like, he still has to adjust to the ball, the mound height, all of those other things that are now MLB regulations, plus the language, the new team, just the new environment. And it's gonna be an adjustment for him. So I think that's just something to keep in mind, because he even said a couple months ago, I was here in Japan and now I'm here again, but I'm here as an MLB player. It's like he hasn't been in the US for that long. So there's a lot going on just for him to be in that game and to accomplish what he did in the 3 innings of work.
Yeah, the other thing that stood out to me with Roki is he, especially in that first inning, he put some pitches right over the plate. And if you believe Barry Bonds, you can hit 100 miles per hour. Hitting 100 miles per hour is easy. Those Cubs hitters, they miss their pitches.
I would just say to anybody who is going to criticize that, back to the batting cages. Go to the batting cages. Go hit, like, work your way up 60,
Smash
70,
balls.
80
Smash
miles
balls.
per hour. Go smash some balls, or try to at that speed, and see, how well you do consistently. And that's from a machine. Like, you're dealing with somebody who's, like, strategically trying to change up their pitches.
Yeah, I mean, it's a two-way street, right? It's because you can throw 100 miles per hour, you can get away with throwing pitches right over the middle. But there may be a point where, all right, you threw it right down the middle. These are major league hitters. They're going to figure out a way to hit that. And if
Or
you're
you time it just right.
exactly, and you're walking, I mean, we saw it in the spring training game actually right before, or no, one of the exhibition games in Japan. Blake Snell only gave up 3 hits, and he left that game because he walked somebody and then gave up a home run. So if Roki's out there walking 2 hitters and then gives up a 3-run bomb, you may have only given up 1 hit, but you gave up 3 runs. So, like I said, the question is, how long is it going to take for this guy to figure it out? So the control is something to keep an eye on. The other thing that stood out to me for Roki, I don't know if you noticed this, Amie, they're going to steal bases on this kid. He has such a high leg kick, and I don't know if as the season progresses, they will mess with him mechanically to maybe try to do a sidestep. But at least at the beginning of the season, whoever does get on, they're going to steal. And you saw that the Cachorros immediately stole two bases on him. So I expect early on in the season, they're going to steal bases on Roki.
Well, yes, I agree, but it was like his first, like, real Major League Baseball game. So I'm going to give him a little time to adjust.
No, and again, for me, it's all about the potential. He showed and it's super exciting, right? I mean, 3 innings, I think, is kind of what everyone expected. I thought maybe he would go out maybe for the 4th inning, but I understand why Roberts decided to go ahead. Because, again, I want to remind everybody.
The plan was 4 or 5 innings if he could make it that far.
Yeah, these games count, and the Dodgers wanted to win the game. They ended up doing what they did. They won both games. They went out there and they did it. Any other observations on Roki?
No, not at the moment. No, because there was so much going on, especially in that second game. Like, just even with the hitting, I have a question for you for some of the stuff that happened later in the game. But what were some of your other thoughts?
For me, I want to talk about the unicorn. To me, the unicorn it's getting to the point where it's like I think we ran out of superlatives of the unicorn a long time ago. Like, what can we say about the unicorn that's anything new? The one thing I will say that about the unicorn here is this whole trip was about him, right? You saw how the fans all reacted. Everybody is, and I can't stress this enough, Amie. Do you know how hard it is? Everybody's going to that game because they want to see Ohtani hit a home run. And to go there and you deliver what the fans want, like, I think that's extremely difficult. And for this guy to handle the way he handled everything in the exhibition game, he hits a home run. In game 2 of this series, he hits a home run. Like, this guy, the way this guy reacts to pressure, the way he handles it, because I don't think there's any Major League Baseball player that has as much pressure on them as he does, because the expectations for the unicorn are just unrealistic, right? It's just like, for me, I'm just, again, so impressed that everything about this trip was for you. Everything was tailored. We're gonna get into it, I know, later on, because I'm sure Backstage Dodgers has a lot of footage of Dodger fans going through Japan. And I know a lot of them were saying, God, everywhere we turn, we see Ohtani advertising this, Ohtani advertising that. But to be the center of the universe and then deliver the way he delivered is super impressive to me.
He rises to the occasion. I think it's so amazing. And they mentioned it on the broadcast because obviously Roki Sasaki was going out there to make his debut, and people were talking about his nerves and how he must be feeling. And Shohei had shared that he was nervous going into some of these games, and they were talking about it on the broadcast about like how refreshing that is, so that other like kids coming up know that even though he does rise to these moments, he's still human. He gets nervous. He wants to do a good job. He feels all of this pressure. And like, yes, he is able to deliver. Not everybody can do that, but that, yeah, he still has those moments where it's just, I want to deliver. I hope I deliver. Can I? And then, he hits that home run in the top of the fifth inning. And then what I wanted to ask you about is that intentional walk in Japan. Like, how are you going to walk Shohei Ohtani?
Look, I mean, there were two walks, right? One that look, to me, that was a no-brainer.
But it was an intentional one where
Right.
it was
One
just
was unintentional and the other one was intentional. But look, one was a no-brainer. You have a base open, you're not going to pitch to that guy. You can't let that guy beat you, okay? Especially when you got, Tommy Tanks hitting behind him. You can't do that, right? What I was most impressed about, or maybe surprised to tell you the truth, was that they booed. I feel like Japanese fans are so respectful. Like, and I could be wrong about this. Like, I associate, at least in baseball, or maybe it's not okay. Let me rephrase that.
Hold on. Diddle-a-doo, diddle-a-doo, diddle-a-doo.
I associate booing, like, I would expect that in the United States. I would expect that in the Mexican League, for them to boo. I never got the impression that Japanese fans would boo something like. And so when they booed that they actually walked Shohei, again, to me, it explains everything. And it's like, again, everybody in that stadium is there to see him.
But that's
They
their
want to see
Elvis.
him.
That's their like Elvis Presley, like how are you going to walk him? Like, this is a game of baseball. Like, try to outpitch him, but like I understand where they were coming from, because I was just like, did you seriously intentionally walk him here
I
in
had no
Japan?
problem. I had no problem with them walking, because you're trying to win the game. Yeah, if it's an
Yeah.
exhibition game, it's a different story. But those games count, Amy. I have no problem with them walking. At the same time, I had no problem with the Japanese fans' reaction. I was just surprised because I don't know if you noticed in the exhibition games, when like the Dodgers were hitting, they were super quiet.
It was
And
like
then
golf
when
right beforehand.
their home team was hitting, they had the whole orchestra, the drum, they had everything going. It was so loud. And so that's why, for them to go out there and actually boo, I was like, oh, like what? Like,
They're
are these
human as
Philadelphia
well.
Phillies fans or what?
They're human too. They get to acknowledge however polite we think them, they're still human. And I mean, if I was there, I might have booed as well. And I don't like booing. So
That's true. What else were your takeaways from those games?
just getting to see some of the guys too. So like there was a couple people, like Luis Garcia made his Dodgers debut. We got to see Jack Dreyer make his MLB debut. Landon Knack came out for 2 innings, so we got to see him again. Kirby Yates, Alex Vesia. So like seeing some old faces, familiar faces, and then also getting to see some of the new guys, and then just seeing it in this atmosphere as well. So just kind of holding it down. So the second game was more of like kind of a marriage of, yes, good pitching, but also scoring runs on the backside, because you had obviously that home run from Shohei, but Tommy Edman kicked it off. He got the first home run of the season, And then Kike, a couple innings later, hits his own. So, I mean, just pretty impressive.
How happy were you when Kike hit that home run?
Oh my
Because
gosh.
I'm going to tell you this right now. I mean, that was a shot. That was a shot that he hit.
I was just like, good thing you got your glasses on, buddy. Like, I was so happy for him. Like, he's my favorite player. And the fact that it was, it was a 2-run homer too. So I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, extra point.
Look, for me, this series, this whole trip couldn't have gone any better for the Dodgers. I mean, again, to see like everybody pitched in the bullpen in those first 2 games. You didn't have to overuse anybody, and everybody was contributing. It wasn't just one person, and it's just so encouraging. And it's like, it just keeps me very excited about this season. I'm going to transition into this, Amy, because there's just no other way. Seeing how the Dodgers played. One more thing before I go to this is I think Imanaga, he's got the Dodgers figured out. I feel every time the Dodgers face Imanaga just shuts them down. I mean, he pitched 4 innings of no-hit ball, before they
But
pulled him.
they did at least get 4 walks out of him though. So they may not have been able to hit him, but they were seeing him.
Yeah, but I mean, last year when they faced him, he was very strong against them. Okay, that being said, Amy, after watching these 2 games, seeing the Dodgers pitching, seeing the bullpen, seeing the offense, for me, really the only concern going into this season is the Dodgers' health. As long as these guys stay healthy, as long as they don't have injuries to the wrong people, I'm very excited for the prospects of this season. And of course, it immediately reared its head because right before the first game of the season, in a late scratch, Federico Freeman, do you want to give us the update on that?
Yeah, so he was taking his final swings of BP before that, the Tuesday, I guess 3 in the morning game, and he had some left rib discomfort, which is just probably they're saying leftover from the rib injury that he had during the postseason. So it's
They
just,
think it's scar tissue, right?
I don't know 100% on
Okay.
that. Maybe. Hmm? But basically they think it's just leftover issues from last season that are just flaring up a little bit. So they're just taking the cautious route with that, and they're going to hold him out of these 2 games just to give him some time to recover. He begged to play in the games, and they were like, "No, we're gonna."
Yes. So from what I saw, Federico said he could play it. He could have played in game 2.
We saw him play on a bum ankle for the entire postseason. We know he can play. Is it in his best interest?
Exactly. I don't think you want to do that in game 2 of the season. The only I have questions to be fair about this, Amy, and that is if he had this issue, he had it in the World Series last year, right? Is when he had that rib issue, and if it's still not healed, I'm a little I'm scratching my head because not only do we have that, but then we have the Will Smith lingering ankle injury. And I know that you mentioned it's like the only way these things are going to heal is if they don't play. Well,
And you had a shortened off season. They went
Federico hasn't been playing. So why is this not healed yet? And so that to me is something to keep an eye on. Is this one of those that's going to linger like Will Smith's going to linger, where it may not be bad enough where it's going to keep him out of the games? But is this something that he's going to have to deal with like the whole season, like Will Smith was dealing with that ankle thing last year?
I mean, potentially, and Will Smith's gonna be dealing with the ankle thing through the beginning of this year too. A bone bruise doesn't just heal. Same thing with the rib. It's not like he's getting to keep it destabilized. We went deeper into the season than we normally do. They played into November. He had surgery. Then you come back. You have a shortened spring training, so they're reporting earlier. They're not getting time to heal, and their bodies take a beating from February into November. That's not a lot to be able to rest. And I feel like people forget that we may work maybe Monday through Friday jobs if we're lucky, maybe whatever our work week looks like. These guys are playing almost every day. And it's not just they clock in at, 9 a.m. and then they clock out at 5:30. They're there for the majority of a day.
They're as I said, Will Smith and Freeman are ones that I'm just keeping an eye on. The
Mhm.
one that is concerning to me is what's going on with Mookie Betts. Can you bring clarity? Because I know there were a couple of our listeners slash viewers who reached out to me who were telling me, oh, he ate something bad in Japan. And I'm like, no, he had this in Arizona.
It was
Th-
during spring training. It
This is
first
so.
started.
Can you fill us in exactly when this started and what exactly he's going through?
Well, they're just alluding to it being a virus. So he's been sidelined by it. They're saying that it's not contagious, it's whatever he has, but he lost about 15 pounds. So when he was in spring training, he started at about 174 pounds. He's down to 161 right now. So just from the ramp up, they thought that he would be okay in Japan, but you know, taking grounders, he was winded. So he just doesn't have the energy. I'm just trying to think back to like when I've been sick. Like I can't even imagine just trying to like get on a plane for X amount of hours and then having all of that buzz around and then going to like practice. Like when you're sick, you just want to rest. And I don't know that these guys always get all of that if they're being monitored all the time. So he ended up flying back to LA yesterday, and they're being cautious with him as well because of this virus, because of what it's done to his body. It's not worth losing him for the long haul because he's lost so much weight. They don't want to have any soft tissue damage with him ramping up too fast.
And that to me, Amy, is what's concerning is the rapid weight loss. To lose that much weight, I was under the assumption that Mookie was listed at 180. When you tell me right now that he was listed at 164 and he is down to 161,
No, 174 is what,
I'm sorry,
and
174.
this is what I got from the broadcast. So this is what Joe Davis and Eric Karros were sharing. So 174 down to 161.
That to me is alarming. So
I mean, he
I'm
was
not
sick.
I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna Cassandra it yet. I'm not gonna hit the panic button. But when I heard that amount of weight being lost as quickly as he did, I'm not gonna lie. I was just like, this story is very weird to me. It is very weird what's going on. There is a part of me, and I know, again, viewers, listeners, pose this question to me, Juan. Why did they let him go to Japan then? Like, wouldn't have he been better off staying in Arizona, staying on a routine, getting rest? Um, Look, for me, like you mentioned it, Federico was arguing to play those games. I'm pretty sure Mookie was arguing to go to Japan. I think he wanted the experience of going to Japan. He was just in Japan earlier in the year with that training camp with the kids. So I think he wanted to do that.
I think
I-
also turning a corner, like when you're not sick anymore, like you have that feeling of like, okay, I'm better, but am I better to like go ramp up full force or, maybe I need to rest more? And because of like Mookie and Freddie's mentality, like you just mentioned, they're going to fight to be in a game no matter what. Yeah, I can make it through. And then until they hit a wall and then it's like, okay, yeah, maybe I can't make it through. And I think that's something just to remember for everybody. Like, we never know what battles people are fighting. Maybe he truly thought he could do it. And, his humanity reared its head. And it's like, okay, he can't. So I'm sure he didn't even want to go home necessarily yesterday. They probably forced him to.
And from all reports, he was taking drills before the game, and from the reports, is he was exhausted
Yeah,
from
he
the
was like
drills.
bent over, like hands on knees, like just winded, like heaving. Not heaving, like vomiting, but like just trying to breathe.
So that's another one that to keep an eye on. In
I think
turn,
they're doing the right thing though. They're taking the precautions, they're giving them the rest that they need, whether the players think they need it or not. We're 2 games into 162. Like, give them the rest that they need so that we can have them for the duration of the season.
absolutely. And for me, again, this is what I'm saying. The only concern I have about this team is health. When you have these kind of injuries that will nag, they do. They, I mean, Will Smith is the perfect example of this. they will impact performance. And that's why I feel, looking at this team, first 2 games, this is my overreaction. I feel pitching is going to carry them this year. I really do. Why
I
are you
just
laughing at me?
just it's so funny because I think we all take for granted how healthy these guys stay for the majority of the time. Like, we could probably count on our hands, maybe even less, how many times these guys are actually out sick. I think maybe Muncy might have been out last season for a little bit because he wasn't feeling well, but the majority of the time, these guys are in and day out every week in these games. We take for granted that they either play through it and we don't even know they're sick, or we hear about it afterwards and people are like, oh, so that was an excuse that they didn't pitch well. And it's like, I don't know about you, but like when I don't feel well, I just sit in my office chair and I still go to my meetings, but like I don't have to like perform physically. So I think that's something that we all take for granted, is how on these guys are all of the time, whether they're sick or not, whether we know or not. And, they're going to have days. They're going to need some rest.
Speaking of injuries, the Tony Gonsolin. Did you hear about the Tony Gonsolin injury?
I saw a post right after we wrapped our episode last week where you were like, Gonsolin's got to be the 5th one. And I was like, are you sure? Like over May? And then May ended up being the 5th starter because Gonsolin ended up injured.
Yeah. So Tony the Catman hurt his back lifting weights, and so that just goes to show you I don't know anything about what I'm talking about. But that's one of the 9 pitchers that's going to start the season on the injured list. And hey, Dustin May, you have an opportunity now. Take advantage of it, my friend.
Just no salad. No salad.
You don't
Or
make friends
really
with salad. You
finally
don't make friends with salad.
chopped salad. And I saw something just in passing that Eduardo Henriquez, like his left foot fracture had nothing to do with baseball. Like it was done on his personal time. So it was like super evasive. And I was just like, oh gosh, is this like a hitting the towel? What was it? The paper towel dispenser last year? So one of the
Oh
players
boy,
like fractured
I
their
did
hand.
not know that. I did not
Yeah,
know
I
that.
saw something, I think scrolling through Twitter. So,
Anything else in terms, I do want to spend some time talking about the Dodgers overall experience in Japan, seeing some of the stuff on social media on what the players were doing. But in terms of the games, anything else, or this injury bug that's they're fighting already to start the season?
no, I think they're gonna hit their stride. I think we just breathe and go to games, watch games on TV, and everything will work out.
So before we talk about the Doyers in Japan, I do just want to shout out real quick that second exhibition game against I believe it's the Hanjin Tigers.
The
Is that
Hanshin, yeah.
Hanjin Tigers? That guy who, and I forget what was it. It wasn't. Was it? Do you know what the pitcher's last name was?
No, but I can
Now I
find out.
totally blanked. It wasn't Suzuki. Uh,
No, because he's the DH.
no, for
Oh, hold on.
who was
Oh,
this?
was it Saito? Oh, shoot.
No,
Let's
no, it
see.
wasn't Saito.
It was Psyche.
There you go, Psyche.
Saiki, just in case we're accidentally butchering his name.
He looked fantastic, man. So that Hanshin Tigers team won the championship in 2023 in Japan. They shut out the Cachorros, and I know this is when people will sit there and argue with me, Juan, the Cachorros aren't that good. But not only did they shut out the Cachorros, they beat the Doyers, and they shut them down also offensively. So I just want to give shout outs to, when everybody sits there, the Japanese baseball league seems to be pretty good. And as much as it pains my heart, it's probably the second best Major League Baseball. I mean, the second best baseball league in the world behind Major League Baseball, and ahead of my beloved Mexican league. But I was just very impressed by that picture of the Hanshin Tigers and their bullpen. Their bullpen also just came in and shut the Dodgers down. So
Their teams in general were very efficient. Like they were exciting games to watch. And, of course, Shohei homers. And what was it? His first at bat even? I don't know. He walked his first at bat and then he hit that 2-run home run in the 3rd inning. And did you see Will Smith's comment about that?
no, what did Will Smith say?
I'm surprised it took 2 at bats, honestly.
And I'm telling you, the unicorn. He's a machine, man. He is out of this world. But so how? Shout out to the Hanjin Tigers. So anything specifically stand out to you to the Dodger players' adventures in Japan? Because I know there's Daddy Bonda stories. I don't know what else you saw. What do you want to
Every
start off with?
every time you say that, ugh. No, I did see Anthony Bonda getting to go to the Pikachu factory. Like that was like a childhood dream, and he got to take his son. Just all the footage that they put out just so that we could kind of experience it with them. I'm excited for whatever's going to be on the backstage Dodgers because I want to see it more than just the chunks we saw on social media. But I think my two biggest highlights were probably Anthony Bonda, like just seeing the joy on his face, talking about all of that stuff, and then Kike walking around and being like, "Wow, these people!" Like there were so many people following him.
I have to say, Amy, I did not realize how popular Gike was in Japan. Did you hear the ovations that he got during the game?
See, they know, they know.
Oh, Enrique just he's a fan. You know, one for me that I really liked. I don't know if you saw this was Tanner Scott and some of the other bullpen dogs, as they're being called. Did you see him eat that huge piece of sushi?
Yes. I was like, God, I'm hungry. Now I want sushi.
Yeah,
We need a dinner soon.
and I mean, it was just great to see them out there experiencing the culture and just being very, very inquisitive. They all seemed like they were having a great time. And then what was so great was seeing all the Japanese not only repping their Japanese teams, but it seemed like they're all Doyer fans.
Mhm.
So
Did you
that
see
was a lot
some
of
of
fun.
the footage that, like, I think it was, like, City Hall or whatnot? Every 17th of the month, they all wear Shohei jerseys.
No,
So
I did not know that.
they put up the picture during the broadcast. I think it was Tuesday's game, and it's like you can just see all of these people at their desks with their 17 jerseys on, and they do this every month. So they were saying on the broadcast, like, some people might have a Shohei day once a year. They do it every month, and they all wear their jerseys. And like, just how cool is that? Like,
No,
just
and look, and this is part of the reason I know that Amy and I bitch a lot on this show. But part of the reason why we created this show is because we love baseball. And I feel like this trip to Japan, I didn't feel like this level of excitement, joy, and love when they were in Korea. And maybe it's because there was just more coverage with them being in Japan, or maybe it's just because of the country of Japan is so baseball crazy. But I really felt the joy for baseball on this trip, and it was just so fun to watch. And I love that these people were so invested that we didn't hear any of the bitching and moaning that we normally hear here in the States.
mhm.
And, Dick
It was
Monfort of the Rockies comes to mind. We'll deal with that one later. But it was just so great. They just wanted to see these great athletes going out there and doing impressive feats.
we got to see our love of baseball mirrored in their love of baseball. And the fact that, like, knowing that some of their players will leave to come to the US to come play over here, like, I don't want to say it can't feel good, but it's like Shohei is beloved. Like, I'm sure they would love to have him play in their country, but he's coming over to the MLB to do that. So to be able to have him come back, plus having Roki and Yamamoto, it's just, getting to celebrate what their country not has created, but like these are that Japan is their home. And so it was just like, what a wonderful homecoming.
Absolutely. So, other than Pikachu photobombing Steven Nelson and Kirsten Watson, I do also love how they brought back a Japanese baseball legends and really incorporated them in part of the whole series. I thought that was a wonderful touch. Did a great job of reminding people of these players or
The
introducing.
history of the
Yeah,
game.
introducing to people who had never heard of these players before. So it was just, I think it was just really well done. The crazy thing is, I believe before Wednesday's game, it was snowing in Japan. So I'm
Mhm.
thankful that there was a dome. and the weather did not impact those games.
And they had the cherry blossoms there too. I think overall they just did a really good job, even like with the not just the players but the history, where people are like, oh well, Japanese baseball must be a recent thing, and it's like, no, this has been around for 150 years, and here's why. Here's how it grew in this country. Here's where their love of it comes from. The Yankees came in, what was, I think, the 30s, and helped reestablish that love of baseball. And then you have stuff that went dormant because of maybe rocky relationships between players that came to the US, didn't come back on the timeline. And it was a reminder. Those are things that I've seen on like webinars and presentations from SABR, the Society for American Baseball Research, but not everyday fans or the layperson necessarily knows that history. So getting to have that interspersed within the game, I think it was a great addition.
Yeah, look, they knocked us out of the park. Like I said, we've been.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Hi-oh. Look, we've been critical of Manfredi, but I think Major League Baseball really did a good job here. Is there anything else in terms of the Doyers out in Japan that you want to address before we talk about Dave Roberts and
No,
his mother?
I think that kind of segues into our Dave Roberts topic, because he said it himself, like, mission accomplished. They painted Japan blue. Like, between seeing baseball hats and jerseys and gear everywhere, seeing Shohei's face plastered everywhere, like, they got to see it in person, what they kind of spoke into existence. A couple years ago when they started pursuing Shohei.
I did think it was funny that the Dodger players were like, everywhere we go, we see Shohei, and I think they all was like, now we know why he deferred $68 million a year. He doesn't need to. Look at all this money he's getting from advertisements everywhere we go. I was like, I can't get away from this guy.
Keychains and tea bottles and labels and billboards. It was everywhere. I'm like, do they have like paper towels with him on
like,
that?
Shohei the toilet paper, Shohei the cereal, Shohei the flamethrower. So, but the LA Times, Jack Harris, kudos to Jack Harris. He wrote a very wonderful piece on Dave Roberts and his mother. Amy, do you want to set it up or?
Yeah, actually, when you sent me that, I thought you were talking about a different article, because Sonia Chen from MLB.com wrote something similar. It wasn't as in depth as Jack Harris. So when you sent it to me, I was like, oh, I already read that. Oh, wait, no, different article. But it was a really poignant article about how Dave Roberts really just hadn't given his Japanese heritage his due. His father married his mother. His father was of African American descent. He was a Marine in Japan and met his mother, who was from Naha, Okinawa. They got married right after Dave Roberts was born. Like 6 months later, they had to move to whatever the next posting or the next base was. So they went back to the United States. And his mother basically left her whole life, her whole culture behind to move with her family. And so as they moved around from base to base, Dave Roberts mentioned that, you're just trying to fit in as it is. And when people would be like, like, what are you? He just tried to fit in as best as he could. So he never really gave his Japanese heritage as much time as he wishes now he could have. He said it is a regret of his, but he is getting to connect with that now. I don't know, what were some of your thoughts as you were reading it?
Again, I strongly recommend for those of you to read Jack Harris's this piece. For me, my initial thoughts were, "Oh, Dave Roberts, you biracial angel."
I was just like, he has the Selena effect.
Yeah, it really, like, for me, I know the focus was on Yamamoto and Ohtani and Roki going to Japan, but there was a part of me that I wonder what this must feel for Dave Roberts. And this is something I know it happens a lot, and I think you might share the same perspective as I do, or you might be a little different. But I get asked a lot that too. I'm born in the United States. My parents were born in Mexico. Growing up, I called myself a Mexican, right? Because my parents were Mexican. And then once I got into college, I realized, you know what? I'm an American as well, So it's like I need to acknowledge that, So it's like I'm both. I'm Mexican and American, and it cracks me up though that you bring up the Selena thing because it's so true. Like you resonate when Edward James Olmos says that great monologue. We got to be more Mexican than the Mexicans and more American than the Americans. So it's like ni de aquí ni de allá. And I
Hmm.
wondered, and that's why I like the piece. I wondered if Dave Roberts, and it seems like he did, but struggled with like when you are something like there is a player on the Lakers, Rui Hachimura. He's black and Japanese, just like Dave Roberts. And I know other people that are biracial like that, and it's just like, do you do you lean more towards one than the other?
And
Does
if you
that
do,
mean
do you get backlash from other people, like how you
exactly?
identify when it's really none of their business?
Yeah. So I thought it was great that they shine light on that, and I thought it was great for Dave Roberts to be able to. I always wondered what that meant to him to be
Hmm.
in Japan, what this trip meant to him, and getting in touch with your roots because whether you want it means something. It is your culture. It is something that is a part of you that you may want to explore, that you may want to know about that, and it's very exclusive to your own experience. So,
Mhm. And we all
I
we all have different experiences in that. You and I have talked about that before. Like, I feel very self-conscious about like how I was raised, and you can look at the history and see like why certain families did what because of racism and things, going back in time. Like I know why my grandparents didn't teach us Spanish. But now you get the backlash from people of like, well, you don't even speak Spanish. And it's like, well, no, but there's a good reason why, but it doesn't make me any less what I am. But there's always this rush to pick apart people and to judge versus like let's just look at people as the whole as who they are. I really resonated with something that David Roberts said in there about like how he feels whole now, like this brought him back home. And he just has a new appreciation for his heritage, but also it helps the way he relates to Japan and the way he relates to his players. And I feel like that's something that, again, like I feel like this episode is a little bit about let's just give everybody grace because it's like instead of maybe rushing to judgment for people, let's ask people what their experiences are and how they see or identify with the world versus us just rushing to judgment.
yeah, and look, I'm guilty of this. It is one of those things where the question for me, Amy, is you don't want to pigeonhole people, right? So you look at people and be like, wait, so are you Japanese or are you African American? Right. Well, why do I have to be either or?
And also,
Right.
why does it matter to you? Like, like
And
depending on the situation, like why is that your business?
but then I also see the side of, but that's your culture, man. And if you don't explore it, if you just completely ignore that, you may be missing out on something. You may be like exploring that may like you just mentioned right now that Dave Roberts feels whole. He maybe learned something about himself, and it's just fascinating. You're absolutely right. In the end, it's your own journey. None of us should be on there. The lesson that is learned from me is really not to pigeonhole or force my it's whatever they want it to be. It's their own journey. And when I see people embrace their culture, whether it's one culture over the other or one piece of heritage over the other, that's perfectly fine. It's
Well,
whatever they want.
and what I would answer back to that is sometimes people want to explore I'll use myself as an example so I don't just make a hypothetical, but there have been times where like we were raised with a lot of our Mexican side, our Latino side, but then we were also very whitewashed. And I had no control over that as a kid, but as I got older and wanted to explore those parts of my culture, some people even within our culture gate kept that. Well, you're not Mexican enough to go explore that now. So it's sometimes it's not for a lack of wanting to, it's for other people, whether it's your own culture or cultures outside of yourself, not being open-minded enough for that. So there have been times in my life where it's like, well, I would have wanted to do that, but when I attempted to, I was barred in that respect. And so So you get rejected enough times in some of those cases where it's like, all right, well, I'm just not going to explore that now.
No, I mean you're absolutely. I mean, there's so many factors. You mentioned it. Look, for me, um, I have cousins whose Spanish is maybe not as strong as mine, but that's because their parent, in particular their mother, spoke English to them the majority of the time. So if you don't speak the language, you lose it. And so I hear them now speak in Spanish, and I'm guilty of this, and I shouldn't do this to them. But I hear them and I cringe because I'm like, "Oh, bro, your Spanish is horrible." And I'm like, dude, that's a dick move. I should be more encouraging, and because you sit there and you cringe, it makes them not want to speak it anymore because nobody wants to be made fun of.
That's why I don't speak the little bits that I know, because I know I'm not doing it as well as a native speaker, and I don't want to continue to get made fun of for that. So it's like, all right, well, just unless I'm with a friend and I'm practicing, I'm not going to speak Spanish, cuz that reaction right there is like, oh.
Look, I know my sister wants my niece to be bilingual. And so the goal is to speak to my niece in Spanish 100% of the time. And she'll pick up English when she goes to school. But I realize sometimes it's just you get so caught up and you end up speaking more English to her. And then you realize you never speak Spanish to her. And then you wonder why she doesn't speak Spanish. Well, nobody taught me, nobody spoke to me
Mhm.
in that language. So how am I supposed to know it? So how is it her fault, right? It's like we take it upon ourselves. So
I'm
I make
curious.
fun.
Oh, go
Go.
ahead. Sorry. You make fun
And
of.
I make fun of my friends who are like machistas and all that stuff. And like I said, I'm guilty of it. And I look back and I have secret shame now. And I'm like, I shouldn't have been like a dick like that, because there are outside factors. I remember I had a science teacher in junior high. She heard me refer to myself as a Chicano. And in my mind, I thought the reason why I was a Chicano is a Chicano was a Mexican who was from California. And so she said to me, and she was a Latina, Mrs. Alonso, I'll never forget this. She said to me, she's like, don't call yourself that. There's no such thing as a Chicano. A Chicano is a made up word. So I stopped identifying as a Chicano as a result of that interaction. And later on, when I went to college and I found out, what a Chicano was and how it's the political term and all that stuff, there are so many factors. So when you see a story like Dave Roberts and his
Mhm.
mother and him, it's just, I thought it was a very inspiring piece, and it just made me realize, like you said, Amy, I think you phrased it beautifully. You need to extend grace to people.
And it's interesting because I'm curious now, as he's starting to kind of marry those two halves of himself together, because he did say like that is the one thing he regrets, and nobody wants to live with any regret in their life. So it's nice that he's getting to remedy that now. He mentioned that his mother would, like, cook certain things or like decorate the house with some like cultural components. So it sounds like he got some of it, but it sounds like he's also finding those pieces of himself now, and if that makes him an even more whole person, bully for him. That's amazing.
Absolutely, check it out, ladies. It's ladies and germs. It's a really good piece by Jack Harris, who does good work for the LA Times.
Mhm.
Next story here, Amy. So there've been some updates. So there were some people that were reassigned before the Dodgers went to Japan, and now that the Dodgers Tokyo series is over, there were some more reassignments. So you want to give us the updates on those reassignments?
Yeah, there was a flurry. So March 11th, we found out that Bobby Miller was optioned, as well as Hae-Sung Kim. So both of them were, you kind of alluded to that. And then also there were quite a few players that were reassigned to minor league camps. So right-handed pitcher Giovanni Gallegos, catcher Dalton Rushing, infielders David Bodie and Michael Chavis, and then outfielder Eddie Rosario. So that was all before they left for Japan. So, any before we jump to the lot, do you want me to read the rest of them, or do you want to pause here and
Let, let,
share your
let,
thoughts?
let's let's talk about those cuts.
Mhm.
The Bobby Miller one, I think, is the most intriguing one to me because we talked about this on the show. I don't think it was a surprise. The minute he took that ball off the forehead, I thought there's no way he's behind schedule. He's not going to start on the roster. They're going to use this as a chance to give him more work in the minor leagues.
And he has
So,
the options.
right. So to me, the reason why he is intriguing is if this Dodgers starting rotation does what it's supposed to do, and there is no spot for Bobby Miller, because I don't know if you've seen this. There's already those articles that Bobby Miller's a trade chip. Bobby Miller is a trade chip. I are you ready to give up on Bobby Miller, Amy?
No, and the reason is because you've mentioned health already. Like it's not like just the Dodgers are somebody that suffers from that challenge. All teams are going to have issues. Players are going to go down. Some of them are just going to get tired. I think he's going to get his chance within the season. I don't want anybody to be injured for him to come up, but the reality of the situation is a lot of these pitchers haven't gone full season. So we're going to need people who can break some of them.
Yeah, so I don't think he's a trade chip yet. I really think the Dodgers are going to use him for depth to get through this season. So that to me, that's why that was intriguing. The next most intriguing one to me is the Haesung Kim. And I know people will sit there and go, they'll look at the contract that he signed, the money that he got. But for me, the one that makes it really interesting is like the Dodgers traded Gavin Lux away to make room for Haesung Kim.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like Gavin Lux was making a lot of money. And I feel like Gavin Lux, maybe he's not the superstar that people expected him to be. Maybe those were unfair expectations. Maybe we needed to recalibrate. But I feel like Gavin Lux did contribute as a part of this team. And honestly, I would prefer to have Gavin Lux right now playing second and have Tommy Edman in center field, and use your depth. I'm still not sold on Andy Pages. I know everybody loves Andy Pages' power, but I do find that Haesung Kim move interesting. Now, he may go to the minors, start figuring things out, tearing things up, and the next thing we know, Haesung Kim's going to be up in the major league team, and you're going to be going, hey, Juan, remember when you said you wanted Gavin Lux to still be on the Dodgers? It's just one to keep an eye on for me.
And I think because they also knew that it was a possibility that he might have to go down depending on what his transition over here was like. It's to me, it's not a shocker. Like you said, he could end up coming back up sooner rather than later, but there was such a log jam in the infield. I think there still even is to some extent, especially when Mookie comes back, that it was like, okay, yes, Gavin Lux is a contributor and he is, he was a pretty good second baseman last year. But if you have a newer player that has potential, but you can also option them back and forth while you have a logjam in the infield, I feel like it just gave the Dodgers more play with what they could do while they were also kind of building him up or ramping him up to either be in the majors or, maybe bring him up next year.
Next, Dalton Rushing to me is interesting because I keep hearing everybody say we're probably going to see Dalton Rushing up here by the end of the year. We're going to see him sometime this year.
The elusive everybody,
right? And so here's the thing. They said he's not going to be playing in the outfield anymore. So if we see Dalton Rushing, we're going to see him behind the plate. So I am curious if Barnes or Will Smith go down. I feel like Fiducia has to be the first catcher that you call up. How soon or how realistic is it that we're going to see Dalton Rushing perhaps see some time as catcher in the major league level this year?
Yeah, that one's a little bit tough for me because you do have like Fiducia potentially blocking him, as you've already got Will Smith and Austin Barnes there. So I mean, I don't know, unless are they just giving him a little bit more time to marinate, trying to iron some more stuff out before he makes that big jump? It remains to be seen, I guess, because they both have, Fiducia and him both have options, so they can still kind of wiggle with both of them.
And they have that luxury, Amy, because I know this may upset our loyal viewer, listener, Mr. Raider himself, the ghost of Al Davis, who Austin Barnes had he looked pretty good offensively in spring training. So if Austin Barnes is performing, and we already know he handles a pitching staff very well. So I think it's going to be hard for both Fiducia and Dalton Rushing to see time unless there's an injury.
And we do know, like, Barnes calls a good game. He doesn't have that snap quite yet of getting to second base when you're trying to catch somebody stealing. He's not. We saw that Will Smith kind of tweaked a couple things last year because of the feedback that he'd gotten the previous year, and I think he even led the league at one point in being able to, like, all the caught stealing. Barnes, I think, has a little bit more work to do there, and then offensively. So I think it's just a balancing act of when can you bring them up. They do need to build up some of that knowledge so that they can get to that point, but also how do you sacrifice what Austin Barnes brings versus that rookie knowledge that you'd be putting behind the plate.
Absolutely. In terms of the other moves that they made, Giovanni Gallegos to me was a flyer. I don't know if there's room for this guy to make this team on a major league level, especially with the number of injuries that the Dodgers have right now. And then once those guys start coming back, the people that are already called up right now, if they perform, they're going to be, I think, ahead of Gallegos to make a return to the majors. I don't think Eddie Rosario has a spot either in this. David Bodie is the only name that I find very interesting because I don't know if they have it in their contracts that if they don't have a major league contract with the team, they become free agents and they're going to go ahead and sign anywhere else, because we didn't see Chris Taylor play at all in the Tokyo series. So it's
we did not.
the bench is still a mystery to me this season, and to keep an eye on. But in terms of the reassignments, those were my thoughts on that first batch. But there was a second batch of reassignments.
Yeah, and to kind of bolster what you said, like, David Bodie had a really great spring, so he was a little bit shocking to me of like, oh, okay, well, hopefully we can bring him back if he can continue to do that. We'll see. But so Tuesday afternoon or sometime during the day, as we're dealing with Tokyo to US time, the Dodgers did select the contract of right-handed pitcher Matt Sauer, and then they optioned left-handed pitcher Justin Robleski, and then obviously moved Kershaw to the 60-day IL from the 15-day to make room on the 40-man. And then just today, they optioned Matt Sauer, they selected that contract yesterday. But they optioned Matt Sauer, Landon Knack, and then outfielder James Outman to AAA Oklahoma City.
Landon Knack, I think you probably have to sit there and say, Amy, I think we're probably going to see Landon Knack before we would see Bobby Miller.
100%. He's got more of the big league experience, I think, at this point, or at least the consistency behind or from the mound.
Well, in terms of results, I think Landon Knack has better results than Bobby Miller. So right now,
he's like a quiet, like, he's this underrated pitcher. He just comes in, does his work, and then slides back out.
Exactly. Of those moves, the one that concerns me is James Outman. I still feel I have not seen anything from him this spring training that makes me believe that he can be a productive contributor to this team. I mean, hopefully he can figure something out to start the season here in the minors. I know you mentioned the fact that they had the abbreviated spring training didn't do him any favors. But
and the fact that he just can't get reps in, like, it's hard to improve and show that, like, you've grown and that you're shining when you can't get those reps in. I mean, ask Chris Taylor about that.
Anything else in terms of moves, reassignments that you want to address?
I don't think so. I mean, everything pretty much speaks for itself. I mean, we talked about the IL with all those pitchers on there, so I mean, it'll be interesting to see if they make any subsequent moves as they come back and get ready for the domestic home opener.
So, before we wrap things up, two more stories. One is an update for you on a story that we covered on our last episode, and that was the New Era hats that went viral. Well, they got recalled. This is how I know that people watch or listen to our show, because
Oh, yes, it must be our show.
the minute we did our show and we talked about the anals and we talked about the ass hose and we talked about our favorite tetas.
I'm sure it had nothing to do with it being on the Stephen Colbert show or all over social media.
What cracked me up was they recalled tetas first. That's
Yes.
the way I understood it, was that
Mhm.
that tetas was the first one to get recalled.
Well, because
And
they found out what it actually stood for.
and that so but I did I share this with you, or were you the one that found it? There were some people that actually purchased that does happen.
I think I sent it to you. They're like, it's on eBay. People are selling them for like upwards of like $750, $1,000. So the people whose hats actually arrived, the rest of the line, so not including the tetas and all the others, those are all discounted on MLB.com right now. So if you want like a Dodgers version or whatever, me for Miami, you can get that. And then there's a page that I follow. It's Girls at the Ballpark, and they highlighted in their like weekly little Substack that there's a company called athletelogos.com. They made a shirt that says "Save the Tetas" with the Texas logo on it. They're selling the shirts, and all proceeds go to breast cancer research. So if you couldn't get a hat, they're selling shirts, and they're at least doing it for a good cause.
I wonder if New Era or Major League Baseball will go after them for copyright infringement.
Oh, I shouldn't have said their name then. Sorry, guys.
No, I because of the fact that they are the proceeds are going to a good cause. I am very curious if New Era or Major League Baseball will go after them, because I think that's bad publicity for them, because it's like, hey, they're trying to raise funds for breast cancer, and now
Yeah.
you're going to go after them.
Well, I'm looking at the logo, so it's not like it's the overlap logo. So it's not like New Era would be able to say like, "Oh, hey, you stole our logo that we really don't want to lay claim to." It's I just sent you the link so you have it in case you want to order a shirt. Um,
Look, for me, there's two hats that I would consider because I think they're funny, and it's the ass hose and the tetas. But I'm not paying $1,000 for them. I'm
no,
just not. I'm not going to do that.
no. Well, you can go order yourself a shirt now. So there you go.
This is going to transition to our last story for this episode, and that is the importance of. I know this is considered a bad word in today's society, but fuck it.
Oh wow, there goes our
Yeah,
our child friendly rating. Thanks.
an hour and 17. But the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion is, maybe if you would have somebody like that, there could have been somebody who would have said, hey, let's not do tetas. Like, tetas is not, you guys know what this means, right? Like, this is very bad.
And I don't know
And
that that's necessarily even diversity, equity, and inclusion, because I feel like it's gotten such a bad rap lately, where it's like, or you just, have different people
no,
that can
right. And
bring
but
that.
that's why to me it's so crazy, Amy,
Mhm.
because diversity, equity, and inclusion should not be a bad thing,
No.
and so I don't know if you saw this, Amy, and I don't know if you want to set it up, but there is a page that is devoted, I believe this, what website is it? Is it a military website, the government website?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
So I don't
Um,
know if you guys saw this story. Uh, do you want me to set it up, or are you looking it
oh,
up right now?
no, go for it. Go for it. I think
Okay.
I deleted what I had.
So in this whole, crazy thing where we're taking anything that has diversity, equity, and inclusion off of we're absolutely removing it from the world so it no longer exists. In the process of doing that, there was a page that was devoted to the military accomplishments of Jackie Robinson. And Jackie Robinson, I am a little ashamed, Amy, that I didn't know this. But did you know the story of the fact that he was, I believe he was court-martialed for not
Mhm,
sitting in the back of the bus?
mhm,
And then afterwards, they went ahead and he was exonerated actually from
mhm.
it.
That was if you I don't know how, like, that made it into the movie as well, if you watch the
Oh,
42
that's
movie.
right.
That's one of the reasons that Branch Rickey chose him because he was willing to stand up for what he believed in.
So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, let me fill you in. So the Department of Defense took down a story on their website. So this was the website of the Department of Defense, and it was highlighting Jackie Robinson's military service. Okay. And so they went ahead and they took it down, and then it kind of went viral, and people were like, what the hell are you doing? And then as of Wednesday, they went ahead and they put the story back up. Amy, I was a little surprised by the fact that you had three prominent talking heads on ESPN, one of them being Jeff Passan, the other one being Mina Kimes, who's an NFL person, and the other one being Clinton Yates, going out of their way to speak about Jackie Robinson and Jackie Robinson's accomplishments. And I think that's important because for me, removing this is a little scary to me because it's trying to erase history, and I think that's the whole point of baseball is to remember history. This is the reason why we talk about Jackie Robinson. This is the reason why 42 is retired across the league. So when you bring your kid to a baseball game and they go, "Hey, who was number 42?" You get to explain to them what Jackie Robinson did, what Jackie Robinson meant to the sport, what Jackie Robinson meant to society and our country during that time. And if you try to erase that, if we don't talk about it, if we don't have the oral histories, then those stories can disappear. And there's going to be a point where people won't know about Jackie Robinson. So that to me was why that I think was alarming. And I thought it was a big deal. And I have to say, I applaud ESPN and in particular those three personalities for because there may be retribution. I mean, they may get a slap in the hand for doing what they did. I don't think they did anything wrong, but to me, for them to go out of their way and remind everyone that you may want to make this about race, but Jackie Robinson's story is about race, and we can't erase the fact of this country's history when it comes to race.
No, I agree, and I just started catching up on the story, of people speaking out about it today, but I had seen a lot of people on Bluesky yesterday. I follow a lot of the different SABR members, Society for American Baseball Research, and a lot of them are very upset about this, and they have promised to safeguard that information so that if there are institutions that will not protect this data, they will, and that is also something that SABR stands for. So if that's something that you guys are passionate about, you don't have to become a member, but I would definitely check out the history and historical information that they already safeguard of this game because that is one of the tenets of what they do.
Absolutely. And I applaud Jeff Passan because Jeff Passan, he tweeted, "Now is a good time as any to remind everyone that the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City exists to tell a deeply important American story, one that is ultimately about triumph. Our history, good or bad, is all we have, and learning it is our duty." And to me, I have not been to that museum yet, but when I do go to Kansas City and visit that
Field
stadium,
trip.
visit the Royals, you're damn right. I'm going to go to that museum because it is important. And the reason I bring it up is I was very alarmed by the response, by the Defense Department in terms of why they took it down initially. They said we do not view or highlight them through the prism of immutable characters such as race, ethnicity, or sex. That's missing the boat to me about Jackie Robinson. And it's like you can't ignore his race when you tell his story. So everyone, look, when we have, it's the reason why we talk about Fernando Valenzuela. It's the reason why the Dodgers still have Fernando Valenzuela. They're still wearing the patch on Fernando Valenzuela. You can't talk about Fernando Valenzuela without acknowledging that he was a Mexican and what he did for that country and for the Mexican fans in the United States. And to try to eliminate that part of that story does the person, I think, a disservice. And I appreciate those personalities doing what they did.
And that's even, there was a story I just found on, I think it was the Sabre website, like within the last couple of weeks, on Manzanar. And we've already been talking about baseball behind barbed wire in some of the Japanese incarceration camps. Baseball and the history with this country and with different cultures is so ingrained. And it's something that we do need to remember, because that was something that kept people going when they were in, such a horrible situation. And it's just, it not only unifies, but it is a part of our history, and it is stuff that we need to remember.
Absolutely. Any last words, Amie?
Yeah. So let's end on a positive note.
That wasn't positive enough for you?
I mean, that was our the more you know, get involved. So we do have baseball coming back next week. So this Sunday will be the beginning of the Freeway Series. So Dodger Stadium will host that on Sunday. And then we have opening day next Thursday, followed by the ring ceremony on Friday. There will be an Oral Hershiser jersey giveaway on Saturday. No baseball on Sunday. And then there will be a Dodgers hoodie on Monday. And then that's when I stop paying attention for a couple days. Are you going to any of those games? Will I see you there?
So far, no, it's not. It's not going to happen. That weekend, that opening weekend that the Dodgers are, Amie, my daughter has games that weekend, so it's going to be rough for us. So, and during the week, I'm still not sold on that hoodie. I don't know if I want to
Really?
go. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll be there. I have our stickers, so
that's going to do it. All right. Any last words?
We got to see JT, and Joey Gallo is going to be a pitcher. There you go. Those are my last words.
Oh, that's right. And at first when you sent me that Joey Gallo thing, I thought it was a joke, but it looks like it's a real thing. So let's watch that space on the Joey Gallo as a pitcher storyline. So that's going to do it for this episode. Again, if you've been listening to us on the audio portion, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. Tell everybody, come join the party. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Bluesky at Baseball Shangri-La. She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Amie, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.